This is what the headlines are saying. So let's begin with that before Deno can weigh in, and we welcome him to the discussion. Murder, that is the Daily Nation. Murder was the case. Murder, Mwangaza husband and sister quizzed. Murder, Mwangaza husband and sister quizzed. Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza's husband and sister are the latest member of her family to be targeted for questioning over the brutal killing of blogger Daniel Muthiani, aka Sniper. Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza has been questioned already. The husband and sister are the latest to join in on this list. The husband of the governor, Kawira Mwangaza, is the one pictured there, has got himself a full front page. And that is the top story the Daily Nation has decided to prioritize this morning. The Standard, CJ to Ruto, do not lead us to anarchy. Chief Justice Martha Koome has warned the president and his allies that undermining the judiciary is an assault to democracy and will only take the country down the path of chaos and lawlessness. That is a CJ pictured there, CJ Martha Koome. But the biggest picture on the front of the Standard is a Form 1 student who's being escorted to school by a guardian, who I am going to assume is the mother, with the necessary items there, with a boda rider. Quite a conversation we're going to have also there on Form 1s who've reported to school as of yesterday. The Business Daily, the headline, how German firm bribed KRA officials to win a software tender. Here we see that the Kenya Revenue Authority officials received bribes to award a software contract to German headquartered multi-millionaire multinational SAPSE. Court documents are showing here, and it was published by the US Justice Department's Criminal Division, which shows that this company located in Zimbabwe offered bribes to KRA officials to help win a tender in 2015. The headlines on the Business Daily, it's corruption. On the Standard, it is anarchy, and on the Daily Nation, it's murder. Wow. What a combination. Dennis Omondi.
I'm telling you, yesterday, it looks like the newsrooms were really busy.
Yeah?
Because journalists have had a lot to work with.
Right.
Look, just judging from the headlines and the stories we've seen so far.
Also, I'm guessing there was a lot of debates happening with the editorial team on what to prioritize, given how diverse the headlines are like here.
Exactly, because we have not even gotten into the papers. We are not even sure what we are going to meet inside.
Inside there. So that's the mystery of this morning's dailies. But Happy New Year, first of all.
Happy New Year.
Welcome back to the show.
Happy New Year. We are 16 days into the year.
I mean, who's going to stop us?
We can still say New Year.
Yeah,
actually,
Happy New Year, man.
It's nice seeing you this year.
I'm very excited to see you.
And being on your set for the very first time this year.
I'm actually very excited to have you here. And I said unusually happy to see you because I think it's the first time I've seen you this year. Yeah. And I'm seeing you on a very important discussion, right?
Yeah.
Let's get into it. If you were the editor, once more, which of these headlines have won this morning?
Today, looking at the headlines, I'd go with the Standard.
Okay.
CJ to Ruto, where she says, do not lead us to anarchy.
Okay.
Because once again, you know, we chose to go with democracy. And when you are dealing with democracy, then it is obvious that you also have to uphold the rule of law.
Okay.
Sometimes I feel like the problems we find ourselves in can be blamed on us. But then at the...
By us, do you mean citizens or
yes,
the nation at large?
I think, for example, when we elect these leaders, you know, I'm quite disturbed that some of these leaders are lawyers. Look at our politicians. A majority of them are lawyers, and you'd expect that they know how important the rule of law is.
Yes.
But then when you see lawyers cheering the president on when this is going on, and then only the lawyers in the opposition trying to fight back, I mean, we know where the truth is, but we bend it based on where we find ourselves in. If they were not in government and they were in opposition, all of them would be speaking and making all the noise right now.
Okay.
So I think when it comes to upholding the rule of law, what is going on is going to make even Kenyans not believe in the judiciary.
Right.
Because you will be like, if I go to court and I don't win, then the judge must have seen my opponent,
right,
outside the courthouse.
And
So
you're echoing the same sentiments that Nick Mwadime Mwangi had to say here last week on Tuesday,
yes,
saying that, eventually that means if I am a chicken thief and I'm caught, it means, or I'm accused of being a thief, it means I will not get justice, or I will not trust in the process of justice because, the president said so. I voted in the president. He said doesn't have faith in the judiciary. Therefore, why should I? Because he's representing me. And just to still go back to the headlines, I will have to agree with you on what the Standard has as the headline, which is CJ to Ruto, do not lead us to anarchy. And this is based off of what the other papers have also prioritized, which points out to a situation of anarchy, yes, or a possibility of anarchy.
Because, Richard, look at the court cases. How many times the government goes to court and how many times the government is taken to court. The government is dealing with so many people, including contractors, people who have been given tenders by the government. Then there is delays in payment, or maybe they have not upheld the agreements that you had. So imagine you are a judge and you are deciding on a case involving the government. This definitely sends some chills down your spine.
All right.
And does it mean that the government now wants to win all the cases, even the ones where they are clearly on the wrong side?
Right.
So the president, I think he has to tone down. And then one thing that I really find disturbing with this whole thing is that the president and his political allies are using public rallies to attack the judiciary when the judges don't have a similar space. The judges cannot go to a rally to
and
say,
issue a press conference.
Yes, and issue a press conference. So it means that this is a one-sided war. The president is going to win because the people, and I think that's the intention, the people will see that the courts are bad. Okay. But then the judges will not have a similar avenue to
I'm wondering why the president thinks that the judiciary is against him, given, some of these cases, it's not like they are always meditating about them. So if we are speaking about the finance bill of 2023, if we are speaking about affordable housing, a case which is presented before a court of law, once the court deliberates on this matter, this judge doesn't go home thinking about, let me mess up the president big time. This is one of the many cases that are presented before a judge. So this is case number one, is affordable housing. I'm done with affordable housing. Case number two, there's a murder happening somewhere. My thoughts are on the murder, right? And it feels like the president is trying to use the constitution against these officers of the judiciary. He says that there are people who are trying to use the articles within the constitution to either go around what is the rule of law or go around what the government is supposed to do. Who are the custodians of the law? Is it the executive or is it the judiciary?
I think I was reading a very interesting comment yesterday when somebody was saying the only independent arm of government right now is the executive.
It's the one enjoying full independence.
Yeah. And if that is the case, then maybe we can say now executive is the custodian of that law, but essentially it should be all of us because the constitution gives us the power. The sovereignty belongs to the people of Kenya. It is our collective role.
But lately it hasn't been feeling like it.
It hasn't been feeling like it. But then there is also something. I don't know what the president is doing about his own attorney general, because that's the chief legal advisor to the government.
Who should be responding to such matters.
Yes, President Uhuru Kenyatta had an AG who lost several cases, including the BBI. And in fact, that's almost like the legacy he left, losing a case after another, one after another. And he lost all the way to BBI. But then not to say that the president is totally wrong on this one.
Okay.
If you look at Justice Said Chitembwe's case, then we have an example that indeed some judges are just bad news for our
And the CJ did
system.
agree. The CJ actually in her presser did agree that there are some bad apples within the judiciary. But probably, again, as you said, this is not the right way to address it.
Okay. Exactly. And then looking at the JSC and the composition of JSC, I was looking at people standing behind the CJ yesterday as she made that statement. And I was seeing Attorney General Muturi, is the former Speaker of the National Assembly, a man who wanted to be president, shared this ambition to support President William Ruto, and they are close buddies. These people are very close.
They've worked together for
I saw former Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto in the same picture, and I was like, I think this statement has just been done because it had to be done, but we know.
So are you saying...
I'm not speculating. I'm not speculating.
You're not speculating. Makes my next question tricky then.
Yes.
Let me see how to circumnavigate it. Are we saying, or are we insinuating then, that the CJ cannot stand up to the president, the current CJ?
It took her too long to respond, first of all. She responded after so many attacks on the judiciary. She should have spoken immediately the first attack happened. Okay. And even right now, you see the way she's wording the statement. It is like, I want to punch, then I don't want to punch. Yeah. Then how do you ask to sit down with the president? There are so many avenues where these people can speak. You don't have to tell us publicly that I need a sit down with the president. This is somebody...
You can call on phone.
Yeah, I'm sure if she wanted to be there, the president can even clear part of his diary to talk to her.
To the president of the Supreme Court.
Yes, because this is a very important thing. Now, bringing themselves under the president and just acting so nice. I understand President William Ruto, President Uhuru Kenyatta, ex-president, that is, had a difficult time with the judiciary, and then we had budgets were cut, and I think CJ Kome is maybe trying to guard against such things happening, because Maraga really had a hard time being the president.
We have turned into a country of conversations.
Yes.
We are basically a Biashara Tuesday as a whole nation. The opposition wants to have a discussion with the government. The judiciary wants to have a discussion with the government. The legislature has already had their discussion with the government. It's a hand check, and therefore they've been on the same side so far. Even from the statement from the CJ, is that, you know, she was pointing out Parliament and the executive, who she said are, you know, meeting a heavy hammer on the judiciary. Is talks what we need, since you know, it is now late? CJ is issuing a statement that is, you know, doesn't pack any weight in there. What can we do to reform the judiciary system?
I think for me,
if you have any insights.
For me, when I hear talks, I usually know we don't have a solution here. I think it's our go-to solution when we don't have a solution.
Our solution when you don't have a solution.
Yeah, when you don't have a solution, because we talk and nothing comes out of the talks, really. I mean, BBI just, not BBI, National Dialogue Committee just had their talks coming to an end. They have a report. Now I'm told what we are expecting next is the implementation of that. We were going there to solve the high cost of living.
And now we are...
It did not address it in its report. But we are moving on with the implementation. What are we implementing?
Right.
Yes.
What are we implementing? I asked that question when I was starting the show. I asked people to let me know if they see any implementation of what the NDC decided.
Yeah, because if we're going to talk, I think it is always used to buy time. I mean, we had talks between the government and the opposition starting in around March or April. And they took us throughout the year up to November. It bought the government time to continue doing the things they were doing without the noise from the opposition. And it gave the opposition some time and talking points for their expectant supporters, who, to be honest, they really don't have something to tell. They are struggling. It's just keep them busy, keep them talking until we get to another election cycle. I think talks, when I hear the word talks, there is no solution.
Nothing fruitful. Yeah, so those are the conversations happening, and they remind me of what I introduced this show with, which is an analogy to a story called The Wisdom of the Crowds. It is a situation where people were arguing about the weight of a cow, and, you know, they didn't have a scale, so it's we are averaging the guesses, and then to divide to say that's the weight of the cow. They argued so much. They tried to cheat so much. The cow was standing there. They forgot to feed it, and it died. Think about who the cow is in this situation of the talks happening all over the country. Let's move to the nation so that we can take a look at another story which involves justice, or justice not served so far. Mystery death. Governor's brother is also being held by detectives alongside 8 other suspects. And this is happening in Meru County, where Governor Kawira Mwangaza's husband and the sister are the latest member of her family to be targeted for this brutal killing of blogger Daniel Muthiani, aka Sniper. And me and you both being people who operate within this space of media,
Yes.
I think this is it's a story of major concern for us as storytellers, as reporters, as people who are journalists within the Republic, reporting on various issues and trying to keep our government in check. Seeing such a situation where an independent blogger, and we've seen situations in the past where, you know, if I can generalize it, this government of Kenya Kwanza wasn't so warm in, you know, welcoming journalists in their spaces from the campaign period to even after. We know the issues that former President Uhuru Kenyatta had with journalists, and we're seeing this still the case with new age media. This is a blogger doing an independent story, and which means as we move to a digital era where we have independence given to individuals, citizen reporting, mobile journalism, we might not see accountability of such government institutions.
Yeah, and when you look at such, first of all, I think with this story, whoever is reporting on it must first of all take into account that there is a family somewhere that is grieving.
Yes.
And when it comes to politicians, one thing that I believe anybody who offers himself or herself to be in the public limelight, be it a politician, be it journalists, be it leaders in various capacities, you must always expect that you'll have people who support you and are always behind you in whatever you are doing. Then in the same vein, you must always have people who are against you. And that is good, because at times they keep you in check. You don't have to have people who are always singing praises for you every other time. You need these people who, when you get into a ditch, they can pull you out. And I think that is what people who oppose these leaders do. When it comes to this particular case, it is one which I really find very difficult to talk on or speak on because of the narratives around it already. We have 2 narratives, like the one I'm seeing in the papers is sort of trying to directly place the governor to the murder. She has denied that so far. Then there is also the fact that we all are aware of what is going on in Meru and the tussle for the top leadership. And if you ask me, I think the governor, from the 2 impeachments, what I managed to see there is that this is a lady who is holding the office on borrowed time. For some reason, something is coming after that seat. I don't want to speculate again.
Why so soon, though?
But the second narrative I have heard around this case is, hey, let's stop first and look at it. Could it be somebody also trying to go for the governor? And this is such a perfect way to do it. I'd really love for DCI.
So they've tried twice through impeachment, and now this is the bullseye.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if she doesn't play her cards well, this might sink her.
All right.
Because clearly, even if she gets acquitted, let's say the investigations are done and it is found that she's very clean, the damage has already been done. Some of the people in Meru will forever believe that she's a murderer. And in politics, anything goes. Whichever thing, whichever, what can I say? In Kiswahili, you say silahama or whatever weapon you have in your arsenal, that is what you use against your opponent. I hope that we are going to get to the truth without any politics playing around, because right now, politics, we cannot take politics out of the equation.
She cited political interference herself as well. But then the question that I find myself asking, each case that Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza finds herself in, there is a man at the center stage. Who is this man, Murega Baichu? And why is he at the center of every impeachment, including this case of the murder of a blogger? Why is she so adamant in having him at the center of all her life's activities. Of course, it's the husband. I mean, he's the leader, but this in official matters, official issues, official scandals, he is still in there.
I think there is this taste that he adds to the leadership of Kawira, because he has been, I'm told, that even when she was still the women representative, I think, he was there. So in her branding, it looks like he has been part of her
brand.
Her brand,
political
yes,
brand.
Her political brand. In the branding of Kawira Mwangaza, I think Murega is playing a very key role there. And perhaps that is why, because it looks like he doesn't even do any other job. His job is just to, besides the wife,
to show up.
Yeah, to show up every other time.
Okay. Political activist who went missing, remember that is the fact of the day that none of us can refute, is that there's someone who lost their lives. The political activist went missing on December 2nd, before his body was found in Tharaka Nithi on December 16th. We hope that justice can be served, and I think that is the best outcome. Whether or not it's political or not, I think there's a family still who doesn't care about the politics, who don't care about who is involved, who is not, who's interfering with politics, who's not, but what they need is justice. Who exactly gave the orders for this, and how did it happen? We're hoping that the judiciary, which is getting a lot of fight from the executive, can prove themselves, especially in this case, and justice will be served. Deno, for Mwanza reporting to school, KCPE 2023, the last batch of 844 KCPE, they're reporting school. I'm seeing here a long queue at the Daily Nation, long queue at Mamangina High School in Mombasa County yesterday. The Standard has a picture there, the front of a student, a hopeful youngin joining Form 1. The Business Daily is all business.
Yes.
They don't care about the business of education this morning.
And actually, when you look at the Standard, we have a whole 2-page spread of pictures of how the admission process was looking like in various schools across the country.
Takes me quite back.
The story,
wow.
The story continues on page 6, and the Daily Nation has it on page 10. But there is something common. Schools are saying we have a problem.
Yes.
And I think some of them are problems that have existed for a very long time. But then some now also consider the admissions, because the number is a little bit higher, considering this is the first cohort that is reporting. Needy students are going to school. I saw one who went to school just with the admission letter, and the
no box, no nothing.
No nothing. I think, was it the grandmother or the mother was saying, I'm just going to talk to the principal and hear what the principal will tell me. And that is the case in so many other places.
That is the hopeless case we are seeing, hopelessness we are seeing in some of these cases. And school heads are asking for more capitation from the national government, which released already a couple of billions to the school heads, but needy students are flocking this, and principals, including here I see on page 6 of the Standard, where Chafakali Principal Edward Wachilonga saying they're expected a record of 384 parents who cannot afford, saying school is too expensive. Some do not have resources to take them in. Dormitories are not enough to even house some of these students. And the government has allocated 22,244 to every student enrolled in public schools. And for them, this will only cater for a small fee in accommodation and meals, and it won't do much for tuition. We have a very serious financial strain when it comes to the education sector.
And when you look at some of the avenues that we use to finance school fees, you find that parents will often opt for loans, or you find banking institutions offering to sponsor some students. Some will go to their chamas and circles and get such help from there. And then we always have this one, which is very common and which has made sure some people go back to parliament every other time, which is the CDF.
Which is the CDF and the bursary.
The CDF bursaries. Now the problem is, this time round,
we don't have them.
It has not been released on time. So the students who are depending on CDF to go to school, again, schools have not received that money from the CDF.
That's a very dire situation.
It makes the situation even worse.
Right. Schools here are receiving as many as 400 students, 380 students for Form 1, and we know that it was 100% transition, including the ones who didn't sit for their KCPE, because the Ministry of Education is allowing them to continue with secondary education until when they're in Form 3, when they can be able to sit an entrance exam just before Form 4. How that will work, I am not so sure.
I actually wanted to ask the same question. You go and then
you
sit the exam
you
later.
sit the exam.
It's a nice one.
Yeah, 100% transition, no matter what, even if we are incompetent with the system itself. So record numbers in Form 1 students who are reporting to school, and the other thing that has been removed for them is NHIF. It's been pulled out of secondary schools, which means healthcare is not also an option for these Form 1 students who are joining this time round.
Yeah, I think the president and this new administration, one of the things they have maintained from the Uhuru administration, maybe was that 100% transition, but many of the decisions and the things that were there during the Kenyatta 2 period are being rescinded, taken back, like now the NHIF for students. But I think looking at, maybe they don't want to have roles overlapping. If they are coming up with a new health insurance policy, I think it is now the Social Health Insurance Fund, something like
SHIF.
that. Yeah.
But I thought our kids would be the first people to take a look at when speaking matters of health.
You know, the problem is so many things are being rolled out at the same time, and all of us don't seem to understand what's going on. I think we are just sitting here and waiting to see, okay, so how will this work out? The same to even the houses. We saw families already being given. I saw a family in Nakuru posing with the president in their unit. I don't know
the
when
new affordable unit.
I don't know when the rest of us will get our units, but the thing is, right now, there is so much going on at the same time, and this is how the politicians get Kenyans lost. Because when things are going on at the same time,
we are all confused.
Yes, we are all confused, and then we are like, okay, so whichever works. With the one that decides to fail, let it fail, life will continue.
Will it be false if I said that is the same statement that President William Ruto might be saying at this moment? With everything that's going on, we are so confused. Let everything happen as it happens. We might not be the only ones who are confused as citizens, but this government seems like also, with the rolling out of everything, implementation, the rolling back, the scandals, seems all over the place.
Now, if you want to know that even themselves at times they get confused, look at the spokesperson. You will find the spokesperson of the government says something else. Take for housing, for instance, the PS kept on sweating profusely
on national television.
Yeah, right. On national television, trying to explain the same thing. The CS goes on yet another TV interview, says something different. If you talk to the president and the way he explains it, he understands it in another way altogether. So I think this confusion even exists within the rank and file of the government, not only on us as citizens.
Is it by design?
It could be, who knows?
Or by chance. We'll get to know. But I want us to go back a bit to the Daily Nation, where we have that story from our neighbors who have all the solutions, including their president, Suluhu. Tanzania blocks Kenya Airways flight in reciprocity dispute. I want to blow this up to another point which we were putting up here last week with Nick Mwadime Mwangi. It seems, now that you've also been in the newsroom, I've interacted with a lot of these political stories and developments, it seems that we have issues when it comes to the diplomatic front, and more so in Africa. Last year, we had issues with the DRC just before they went to elections. We also had recently issues with, we have issues with Uganda when it comes to oil importation and transportation. We have issues with Somalia. We have seen statements from northeastern members of parliament, speaking of what is happening between Ethiopia and South Sudan, and therefore now we have issues with South Sudan. And now we have a problem with Tanzania when it comes to airspace. What do you think is happening on our foreign policy front?
I think when you look at the diplomacy, President Kenyatta, during his time, looked so much towards China and had a very good relationship with our neighbors here. Talk of Uganda, Tanzania, even Ethiopia and the rest. And then you choose and elect President William Ruto, and he gets into office and then starts this idea of being the darling of the Western countries, and you see the shift in terms of our foreign policy. Then it looks like our neighbors in East Africa are having even difficult time to align to that. Let's say, for instance, right now Kenya is very close to, I think, signing a deal with EU, a 27-member bloc, where now our products will be going directly. And then Uganda sits just by our side here and wonders, so what are they going, so what are they doing now?
With Europe.
Yeah, because we've not signed
anything
anything with those people. Remember, no matter how much we want to go and make friends and be liked by US and UK and the rest, Uganda remains our biggest trading partner. So we must take care of them.
Our neighbors.
The same way with Tanzania. We cannot just take Tanzania lightly, because there are some things we get from Tanzania. I think things like onions, there are things that cross the border. That's why when you have the checks at the border and trucks are stopped for days, people are complaining all over the place. And when you just disrupt that flow of product, that supply chain, you're going to raise inflation, for instance, inland, away from the border.
Right.
And those are things that we have to take care of. Let's take, for example, the Kenya Airways flights being cancelled. Imagine you are flying for a meeting to Dar es Salaam on the 22nd, and then for some reason your flight can't go, and you have a very serious business meeting that you have to attend. We will see chaos at JKIA, and that will be a bad picture for us as a nation, and it will send also a very bad picture to foreigners who are planning to use JKIA, and they will go to other airports. Who will have lost? We will have lost. And I think that is one thing that Tanzania had seen. And Tanzania is known for playing hardball. They are silent, just like their president. The president looks calm, very and collected, very polite. But then when it comes to playing hardball, when they have to, they normally do it, like in this case right now.
All right. KQ operates 33 scheduled flights per week between Nairobi and Dar es Salaam, which means disruption of this kind of route will lead to thousands of people who rely for it on business, tourism, and family connections, even across the border. So that's likely to disrupt a lot, and we cannot wish it away. As you said, we can't say, it's TZ, ni Kiswahili mufti tu na suluhu. So these 33 scheduled flights per week mean a lot for the economy, given what moves between, and it involves cargo flights, which means this is business, this is products, this is a lot of goods which are being traded between the two countries. And this is coming just a few days after foreigners who were excited to come for that visa-free on January 1st came here and found that whatever the government has been purporting and parroting online, that it's visa-free for all, you need an authorization to travel in, and it's costing you $30. So it means that we really still are confused. As we are internally, we are confused even on the borders.
Because I saw a story done by a foreign broadcaster, and the reporter in that report was saying they have traveled, they know what visa is, and it looks like the ETA being instituted by Kenya is just visa in a different name. So when we are making these decisions, I think the decisions we must be true, because we also want to make our visa to be powerful. Right now, I think we are 67th in the world. We need to make it powerful, and we only are going to do this if we are going to prove to those traveling using those visas that indeed Kenya is visa-free. But if we are having some charges hidden behind the visa-free declaration, then they will see through it. I mean, the president himself said, wajenga siku hizi wameisha. People will see right through those declarations.
He says that, but the president moves around like we don't have smartphones, that we can't go back to previous records of what he said. And just say, to close it up to the foreigners, now they understand what it feels like to be a Kenyan. Hidden charges, unaambiwa hivi but ni hivi, unaambiwa hivi but kuna tax chini yake. You buy KPLC tokens but chini yake kuna hidden charges.
Actually,
so, you know,
this publication called The Economist once ran a story that President Ruto is loved abroad, has so many friends abroad, but is creating enemies back at home. And his foot soldiers were really angry at that report, and they were almost saying Uhuru has sponsored it the way we are we are seeing the opposition is sabotaging
Uhuru is
the
sponsoring Malema, he's sponsoring opposition, he's sponsoring a lot of things, he's sponsoring Air Tanzania, you know.
But when you see Kenyans are really complaining on the ground, but our president is getting standing ovations when he goes to
abroad,
give lectures abroad. And so I think President Ruto is a smart chap. He knows how to speak. When he goes there, he tells them what they want to hear. Right now, he knows that the climate change agenda is something the West really likes to hear people who can talk about it. And we were here just seeing him. We are like, so why climate? Why not any other thing? And look at how that thing has propelled him and gave him a front seat at every meeting attended
that
by
speaks sustainability.
Yeah, exactly.
And climate change. So yeah, I began last year, 2023, advising anyone who was watching the show that they should think about sustainability in terms of businesses they are venturing into the year. I didn't know President William Ruto was the one who was listening to the show. So he's now parroting sustainability and Kenya as a champion for climate change out there in the world. But I'd say, just to conclude on our foreign policy front, that it's a reality check for the government of Kenya and for President William Ruto. When you get to these situations where your neighbors have sentiments against you that are not very friendly, you need to be worried. You know, kama neighbor wako wanapita wakikupoint hivi, wa kwanza atakupoint, lakini wakianza kukupoint watatu wanne, you need to think about it. Malema was here, he gave his statements, he saw how the government and its allies were reacting. We've seen the reaction from, you know, DRC. We've seen the reaction, you know, when it comes to the visa processing. And I think it's time that the government thinks really carefully on how it's positioning itself, not just to become darlings of the West, but also to think about our Pan-African spirit and how we position ourselves within the other states in Africa.
Yes, and exactly that is not also to say that we should now be the weakling in the bloc, that we just allow our neighbors to trample on us the way they want. I was saying when Uganda decided to ditch our pipeline and go to Tanzania, I totally understood their argument because the President Museveni was saying it will make oil or fuel cheaper for Ugandans. And if Kenya decided that they are going to do this government-to-government deal to make oil cheaper for Kenyans, even if it's at the expense of Uganda, I'd say, okay, go ahead.
Yes,
because
as long as it's beneficial.
Yes, because we need the price of commodities, basic commodities, to go down. But then we must also make sure that we enjoy the support of our neighbors. I know sometimes in Kenya, I was seeing David Ndii arguing that for heaven's sake, Uganda is landlocked.
And we're here fighting.
Yeah, they have to depend on us for this.
Yes.
But then, even though that is true, there are so many other ways of hitting back at us. Right. The volume of trade between our countries, we've been working so hard to put it where it is, and we are even hoping that it gets higher.
Yeah.
The countries in the West who we trade with, we normally have a very unfair balance of trade where we import more from them and they buy very less from us.
That's
now,
true.
why mistreat the neighbor who buys more from
you
us and imports less, so that at the end of the day, in our trading, we are the ones making profit and not them? But
That's
anyway, the president has
You leave it to the government to do it.
more competent advisors.
Yes.
With us, all we can do is talk.
Is speculate.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of mediocrity, let's have the last word. Let's have the last word at the back of the Business Daily, and let's hear what it is.
So the last word today is from a British novelist and teacher known as Amelia Barr. She says, mediocrity is always in a rush, but whatever is worth doing at all is worth doing with consideration. For genius is nothing more nor less than doing well what anyone can do badly.
Wow. That's something to think about. Thank you very much, Dennis Omondi.
Sounds deep.
For creating time.
Thank
Sounds
you.
very deep. Sounds very deep. Thank you for creating time and starting the year with me here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
To look at what fellow journalists are doing.
Yeah.
And just also to get your audience to know what's going on in the country. Somebody told me when you don't read newspapers and listen to news, unaweza amka upate nchi imeuzwa.
Now you know. Bado hatujauzwa.
Yeah.
Or have we? Think about that. Thank you for tuning in to Biashara Tuesday for this exciting edition. It's been fun having me here from 7 in the morning to right about now. It's 9:56 a.m. and I have nothing more to do but to wrap it up there and catch you next time. Next week on Tuesday morning, I'll be here. Tag me online. I am at Richard_Okenye. As I always say, may your jokes be high this week, but may your profits be higher so that you can laugh all the way to the bank. I'll see you around. Je, angekuwa mambo yangekuwa sawa, ndivyo